Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our review of The Boys Season 2, Episode 5. This continues to be a very odd season of this show. I feel like there's still a lot of things that are going on, and I'll be honest, I find a lot of it to be intriguing, but I'm also kind of surprised that the pace sort of is what it is, where we're sort of sitting here and being like, there's not that much left this season, and I feel like there are so many things that need to happen, and I don't know how they're going to cram all of it in.
Yeah, there's only 3 episodes left after this, and they have been building up a lot of different storylines this season.
And some of them are exciting, some of them are interesting. Like, I am kind of curious to know what Starlight is going to go from here in the position that she's in. I am interested to know a little bit more about what's going to go down with the boys, but we don't have a lot of time left, but we will dive right into this. Before we do, if you guys do like this video, give us a like, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for more updates, and if you want to support us further, check those links to the store and also our Patreon.
Okay, so I guess we might as well start with Starlight. She is in kind of a pickle here at this point because it seems that Stormfront has figured out that she is the person who leaked the information about the Compound V.
Yeah. It is going to put her in a position where she's already got people in the Seven that are upset with her, clearly. We've seen this already with Homelander, and Starlight's sort of only quote-unquote allies at this point are people within the boys, and when you sort of balance this out, you've got people with a lot of superpowers versus people without superpowers. Like, on paper, we know where this story ends.
It's true, except we did see that awesome scene with Black Noir.
Yeah.
It was nice to have some, serious action going on in this episode where there was the big fight with him, with the boys, and it seemed like a little bit of information that Butcher has, saying that he knows about Becca, he knows about the kid, he's gonna expose everything, was enough to take him down.
It's one of those sort of things where reputation, I think that's one of the most important currencies on a show like The Boys. And you see this with Homelander, where he's confronting the protesters and he's got like this vision in his head where he's just killing all of them because that's who Homelander really is. And then you contrast that with him just standing there and being like, you're all good people, you can all be your own heroes, shoots off into the sky.
Yeah, this episode is really all about reputation because we do have the stuff with Starlight that could be exposed. There's all this stuff with Stormfront and her liberty and everything that's going on there that could be exposed. Now we've got Homelander, who was dropping in the points after he killed somebody innocently and someone happened to be there with a phone. There was a part of me for a while there, and I'm still not convinced that it wasn't Stormfront that actually started that and was actually able to get that on film and get that out there to drop his points, to get him in her clutches and to be able to actually start to be like, hey, this is a horrible situation that happened to you. I'm really good at social media. Let me help you out here. Hey, friend, come on in. And that's what that feels like to me.
I will go just as far. I think she did. I think she is responsible for it. Like, I think this is all a construct of her, and I think that's where a part of her real power is. It's not just the lightning bolts and all of that sort of nonsense, it's influence. She has clearly been around a long time. She knows how a lot of this stuff works and how to play this game and how to manipulate even someone like Homelander, where she can appeal to his ego and make him feel special, but at the same time actually push him in a direction that she wants to go.
The amount of influence she has is quite astounding because she has, over these 4 episodes, spoken out against Vought, and Vought has done nothing about it. They haven't stepped in to be like, hey, can you cool it? Nothing, which is crazy to me to have someone who's basically a spokesperson for this corporation go out there and talk badly about the corporation.
It's insane. Like, there's so many things that are insane about this character that everybody just seems to be all right with her. I don't know what Vaught's vetting team is on stuff like this. I mean, Starlight's been able to figure out a lot here in the span of just a few short episodes.
Yeah, because it seems like they've known about Liberty / Stormfront for a while, and that Vought has been kind of shuffling her around and reimagining her over and over again.
it's also just sort of an interesting thing about branding, right? It's about how do you present something to people to make them forget about other preconceived notions. And we see a lot of this now with the Deep. Like, how do you brand someone like the Deep, who is fundamentally terrible, but can you craft a redemption story? I think that this whole show is really, I think, just satire on celebrity culture and media manipulation and how you can sort of see how digestible someone is to the masses.
Yeah, so now Deep is married. And he's really deep into this church. And I wasn't sure really where they were going to go with this, because him getting married is not going to get him back into the Seven.
Yeah.
It's not really enough. And I know he's super desperate and he'll do anything to get back in there. But then when we had everything that's happened with Queen Maeve, and that she's not only been outed, but now Vada's rolling with this and trying to craft her into a very specific box, and she's just not really sure what to do about this. And because Homelander is the person who is behind really all of it, pulling the strings on it, she tried to come to him and was like, how long is this going to last for? Forever. Okay, cool. I need to find another way out of it. So to see her go to Deep and kind of try to make some sort of a bridge to say, listen, I will help you. You need a female in the Seven to stand up for you. I will be that for you. However, in return, I need help getting out of this. And it's nice to finally have it where Deep is kind of coming back into that Seven again.
I just also think it's nice that Queen Maeve has something like resembling a interesting, fascinating storyline now, because she didn't have that for a lot of season 1, really, at least to me. And I think this storyline with her is probably one of the most successful things this show is doing right now, because they are sort of playing up this idea of how do you define yourself? How does the public want to define you? And sort of playing around and tooling with all of these sort of different elements. And you could just see her frustration with a lot of it, and like nobody's really listening to her. Nobody really wants to identify her in the way in which she wants to identify herself. I mean, if you're having to go to the Deep, and the Deep of all people, and be like, I need your help, that's a sign things are bad.
And speaking of things that are bad, A-Train is on his way out. That whole scene where he's like trying to rewrite his exit to leave it open-ended. Who knows? Is he gone? Isn't he gone? It was really tough to watch that. He's a character that from season 1 I wasn't that like behind, because he was just such a jerk. And this season I am actually feeling kind of bad for what he's going through. Stormfront, who's terrible to him, and it's just watching him get squeezed out because he can't run as fast as he did and everything that's happening. I'm feeling bad for A-Train.
This is one of the other things this show is really successful at, because at the start of the show, he's a murderer, and, he's terrible, and he's heartless, and he's all of these different things, and now it is like, oh, A-Train, you've been addicted to things, you have been mistreated by people, and now he's basically like, he's that version of a television show that, like, the network is trying to cancel him and just be like, it's over, it's done, wrap it up. And he's like, can we just have a little bit of a cliffhanger here in case we get a revival at Netflix or somewhere else?
Yeah, so that was a pretty interesting and, again, telling scene with him sitting there with Stormfront, which we had already learned about Stormfront, that she is terrible.
Yes.
Continues to be terrible. And with everything that's sort of going on in the real world, is all of these stories are very mirrored into what is going on, which is what is so powerful about this show. It's not the superheroes. It's sort of like what's going on in the world being mirrored into the show, on top of stuff like influencers and how, branding and all these different types of things. It's very interesting. I love this show.
And I think it's because they're superheroes that it all really kind of stands out. And I think this is why I find the stuff with the Seven more interesting than the stuff with the boys, because these are people who are sort of being emblematic of everyone else. They are figures that people from whatever walk of life you come from are supposed to look to, but it's like they are trying to profess this message of be yourself and be heroic, when it's like they can't even be themselves. They're following a script from all these other people, including just Homelander, who I don't know how much we need to say about the Homelander Stormfront scene at the end of this. It's just like, it's there, we saw it, I don't think we need to discuss it too much.
Well, there's an interesting theory that's been going around, and I've seen it in the comments, I've seen it other places, that there are people who are theorizing that Stormfront might actually be Homelander's mom. So, if that's where we're going with it, that completely makes sense for this creep show that we've been watching with Homelander.
This is horrible. Like,
Sorry to drop that on you, but I've seen that floating around, and I was like, this theory could make sense. You know, it's not out of the realm of possibility. We don't really know anything about Homelander's parents. He was taken away from them when he was really, really little. He was brought up in this lab. Like, Liberty's been around a long time. Like, it's all just a creep show.
Is Eric Kripke just like somewhere in the writer's room being like, how Oedipal can we make this show every single season? It's like, what is going on here? It's like, I actually want to talk about The Boys now just because I don't want to think about this anymore.
Okay, let's talk about The Boys. Can we talk about how funny it was watching Mother's Milk actually watching Outlander?
Okay, I want to know, was Mother's Milk like a big Jamie Fraser fan? Does he like, how far along is he? Like, is he like booing every time Black Jack comes on the screen? That was funny.
So funny.
Yeah, it was really his response to being questioned about it, I think was also really funny. Like, some of the stuff with The Boys, Mother's Milk's always my favorite character.
Yeah, it's a reminder of how good this character is.
Yeah, he is like by far the best part of that group. I think Butcher, I was sort of hoping after everything that happened, not that long with Becca, that he would start to kind of realize, okay, more of, these are some of the errors of my ways. Maybe I need to try to actually find a way to change a little bit, to adapt. And instead, it seems more like, okay, I'm going to continue to go down rabbit holes. And now I'm going to use the dog as sort of a vessel for me to just vent my thoughts.
That dog makes me want more dogs.
Can we see?
We'll talk about that after the video.
It was a pretty cool dog. Not as cool as Coco Vanderwolf over there asleep, but pretty cool.
So cute. No, I actually liked where this was going with Billy a little bit more than sort of just him raging and raging and raging, to sort of have this, more reflective period of time where he's trying to really figure out, where does he go from here? Is there anywhere to go from here? Is he just going to give up? Is he going to try to figure it out? He needed some time for self-reflection. There wasn't a lot, but I really liked that scene where he's just walking down the street with his dog, looking around and being like, man, this is where I thought, Becca and I were going to be. That we're just going to grow old together, with you, the dog, sort of thing. And that he's not going to get that.
I hope that he can get somewhere where he kind of finds a new... It doesn't need to be a totally different purpose. Like, he can still go after the Seven. He can still get revenge on Homelander. But he needs to sort of think of the world as it's not just about sort of black and white. Not all soups are terrible. Like, Starlight has already helped the boys tremendously. And I think so long as he continues to do that, he ain't gonna be any help to anybody over there. It's like, he's not gonna be helping Huey, he's not gonna be helping Frenchie. He's just gonna be kind of making it impossible for them to actually do the job they want to do.
Yeah, which I think is probably why this season we've had a lot more of Butcher on his own and the boys more together trying to figure things out on their own, because they are a little more open-minded to soups in general. I mean, they're working with Miko, and we've got Billy's not really ever accepting her being part of everything, but they've accepted that there can be people who are soups that are good, or at least just balanced. Everybody has good and bad in them. Not everybody except Homelander and Stormfront are just pure evil all the time.
The part of this episode that I wish was a little different is I wish there was more Huey. I think it's just because Huey is kind of like, he was the introduction to this show. He's like the most quote-unquote normal of some of these people. We actually saw an element of normalcy from him in the first season, and I think a lot of that has sort of just been gone as of late, and so I think you have a little bit less of that just reality to sort of cling to amidst all of the crazy and like hyper-realized stuff that's going on around him.
No Billy Joel in this episode. I didn't hear any.
No, instead we think we got Aerosmith instead.
Yeah. No, but it was also really cool to kind of learn about what it is that Billy is seeing or having a problem with or having a connection with when it comes to Huey, that he reminds him of his younger brother who is no longer with us. And while we didn't learn why he's not there anymore, I don't think it's too hard to, string it together that it was probably some soup somewhere did something to his brother. That it's not just what happened to Becca, but it's also what happened to his brother. That's where I think we're going with that.
I would not be shocked, because it seems like this is a dude who's like built up and built up and built up all this hatred for such a long period of time.
Yeah, and his hatred for Soups is so deep that I just feel like it's got to be a couple of things that have happened. So learning that Huey reminds him of his brother, I understand then where a lot more of this is coming from with Billy, where it's like, oh, this is someone who, reminds me so much of someone I love, but at the same time, I'm so angry, is my theory, about what happened to my brother.
It is going to be an interesting couple of, really few episodes ahead here, seeing where they kind of build off on a lot of this stuff.
Left.
But what did you guys think about episode 5 of season 2? What moments stood out to you? What stories are you interested to see explored the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you do like this video, give us a like, subscribe, support us further. Check those links to the store, our Patreon, and we'll see you here next time.